the United States of America, year 1990, the vast land of freedom. Being the world's largest economy, life is most comfortable here. With the rise of personal computers and the internet, the future seems bright and vibrant. This place is also home to the modern Diogenes, Zach. Asmongold. Does this guy even need an introduction? The king of Twitch, the big dick himself, the bald one, or whatever else you want to call him. Born into your average family, with an average life, he didn't yet know what awaited ahead of him. The year is 2006. A teenager aspiring to get a business degree and to attend law school doesn't yet know his life is about to change. One fateful day, he goes over to his friend's house and discovers World of Warcraft. From that day, Asmongold got hooked. Like a succubus, World of Warcraft enchanted the teenager. Already being a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, he knew he wouldn't waste his life away on laws and finances. Instead, he would rather waste it on WoW. The year 2009 rolls around. Asmongold uploads his first video to YouTube. It was again your average video on the site back in those days. Known for being a NEET, Asmongold acts accordingly. From the earliest of days, he wasn't known for being immaculate. In fact, it's become a meme in his community. While no hobo, in those yet immature days, he resembles an incarnation of an ancient figure, the famed Diogenes of Sinop, with an Epicurean twist. Diogenes, famed for his cynicism and living in an old barrel, was what we would call these days a big, fat piece of shit. Not the kindest of people, making do with the littlest possible. If you know anything about Zach, all of this will ring a bell. The difference between the two is that the ancient philosopher strove to live a life free from all possessions, while his modern counterpart was motivated by a single desire: to play WoW all day, every day. That's where the Epicureanism comes in. The mix is counterintuitive, as the two schools directly oppose each other. Epicureanism holds that the absence of pain, in order to achieve both physical and mental pleasure, is the most important thing. How could one merge it with simple living, stoic cynicism? Zach managed to do just that. It is doubtful that in those early years his philosophy was even fractally as developed as it is today, but focusing on having the most pleasure by playing WoW and half abandoning the material world were the first signs of it. In 2013, what I believe his first video on a serious topic came out, and this is where we could first observe his true side and development. The video on SJWs. It's not what you think it is. Go watch it, then judge. Those baby steps and sub-political matters were a foreshadowing for what's to come. I've also noticed this trend with many other people, along with myself. You first start at politics, then realize how tribal they can be, and in order to create something more productive for yourself, you move away. A year later, his first stream on Twitch got announced, and this is where we will let history write itself. As shown before, Asmongold has two big ideas. Do what makes you happy, do with as little as possible. While he calls himself a fiend, and many people either jokingly or not laugh at him, I think this philosophy is brilliant. One may ask, what makes him different from your average junkie? My answer is, Asmongold is incredibly rich. He doesn't crave for all those material pleasures, just some of them. If he did, he could basically get any luxury he wants, but that's not the case. All he wants is big tits, MMOs, Wendy's, Dr. Pepper, and beef jerky. All jokes aside though, while the previous statement is true, none may question that his lifestyle is one worth applauding, and the brilliance comes from its simplicity. According to the quote from Fight Club,
things you own end up owning you.
This is especially true in the modern world, where so many of us lost touch with what's really important: happiness and fulfillment. We substitute them with material possessions, popularity, empty relationships, and pleasure. I too fall victim to these all the time, One may argue that those things might give them happiness, which I must disagree with. No matter the counter-argument, true happiness must be separated from the dopamine-induced pleasure. And the way I like to separate them is with creation. Creation takes time, and in order to admire the thing you've built, you need to go through hardship, struggle with creativity, getting inspired, or encountering roadblocks. Also, creation has a high skill ceiling, and each time you create, you get slightly better at it, in contrast to those short bursts of dopamine. What can you get better at with pleasure? Opening new packages? Manipulating people to like you more? There is still the argument that the very process of creation might be pleasurable, which might be true. The thing is, if creation was solely about pleasure, you wouldn't do it at all. With how short-lived it is, you will always seek something more pleasurable. If that wasn't true, why would most people waste, let's say 30 minutes a day, on masturbating instead of reading a book? But I digress. I think that Zach has this figured out. Despite his horrendous eating habits and falling into pleasure like anybody else by jerking off, everything else in his life is zen-like. He has built multiple characters, done completionism in WoW, developed multiple YouTube channels, created an entire network, and even started a company. This, combined with his dedication to living a simple life, makes him a prime example of a successful philosopher. And I believe he is one of the few people who can actually call themselves a man. This is apparent by his serious videos. I'm unsure how to respectfully cover the coming topic, but I will do my best. Dedication to care of his sick mother, who sadly passed away, along with care for his father, having for the moment figured out what he wants and needs from life, as well as Asmon's emotional maturity. I believe most people wouldn't dedicate themselves as much as he does, and when I talk about emotional maturity, I mean, look at how controlled he is. He is also able to respect his own boundaries by, for example, muting people that annoy him in the chat. I realize it might seem immature, but in reality, why would you expose yourself to stupid things while you're trying to have fun? I said he's one of the few people being able to call themselves a man. What I mean by that is just that he's a good person, and I feel that's what being mature is like. Same goes for women, obviously. To know yourself this much is extremely mature. This also agrees with Plato's first rule, to know yourself. It's apparent that he takes his time to think. From my observations, somewhere in the 2018s, that's when I got on the Bolt train, he started flirting with Stoicism, which got somewhat popular in recent years. This even further matured his thinking. While before being the silly, not caring asshole, if you combine that with a Stoic, you get a cynic. With ideas backing him, he could now become a role model instead of a pure entertainer, and he very often expresses that position, taking stances on various topics in order to either influence people's opinions or just broaden their viewpoint. Very often I find myself agreeing with him, and his takes are extremely reasonable and logical. Take for example the recent deepfake drama. While he agrees it is terrible to use somebody's image against their will, especially in the context of explicit content, he realizes it's impossible to fully ban it. Also, with the rightful outcry of female creators, who, rightfully so, make a huge deal out of it, he still wouldn't make it as tremendous of a deal as. And this is entirely logical and backed by reason, since we can't really compare something that is really bad to something that's the worst thing you can do. With all this said, while I don't doubt he has his own personal problems that he rarely talks about, and like everyone, sometimes makes thinking mistakes that I can't pinpoint right now, from what's apparent, he has quite a developed lifestyle, which isn't as stupid as it looks. We all can learn something from the king of Twitch. To be happy, you don't need much. To be happy, all you need is some Dr. Pepper, your favorite genre of video games, some beef jerky, and the occasional chat with your friends. Thank you guys for all the support on the last video, and thank you for all the kind comments. It really does make me smile when people enjoy the thing I've made. And to Asmongold, hey, if you see this, hit me up, man.